The Coyote Twin, Vermilion's downtown theater. Providing entertainment Thursdays through Sundays.
Tonight on Coyote News, a new medical marijuana dispensary prepares to open in Vermilion.
Plus, we'll have updates from the legislators' veto day. This is Coyote News.
Live from the Al Newharth Media Center, this is Coyote News.
This is Coyote News. I'm Sydney Funderman.
And I'm Philip Larson. We'll hear those stories soon, but first, tuition fees at USD won't be going up next year. The Board of Regents say that for the next academic year, universities will not increase tuition and fees. In a letter to the BOR, the Joint Committee of Appropriations indicated that lawmakers' intent is not to increase the cost of attending public universities in South Dakota.
The Vermilion City Council is deciding how to deal with legalized marijuana. Council members began preparing ordinances related to the passing of Initiated Measure 26, legalizing medical marijuana in the state. Coyote News' Kate Cromer visits the first Vermilion business to take advantage of these new measures.
Vermilion is soon to be home to a new medical cannabis dispensary and growery. Dakota Natural Growers was recently awarded its cannabis cultivation license, the second license awarded in the state of South Dakota, as well as the first medical cannabis dispensary license awarded by the Vermilion City Council. Dakota Natural Growers COO Josh Wood says he is thankful for the Vermilion City Council for their diligence.
From the city manager to the mayor to every council person, their desire to learn how to do this and really do it well has been above and beyond. In Vermilion, I would say I'm just very proud of our community for being supportive of the fact this is a small business started by people that live in this community, again, focused on helping people.
Plans for Dakota Natural Growers began back in October 2020 when Initiated Measure 26 was first introduced. Wood says he and his team have always been motivated by helping Vermilion and the surrounding areas. Reporting for Coyote News, I'm Kate Cromer.
Dakota National Growers will open within the coming months to patients 21 and older with a valid medical cannabis card. Coyote News' Kate Cromer is live in the muck to hear how medical marijuana will impact students on campus. Kate?
Thanks, Sydney. I'm here with University Police Department Director Bryant Jackson. Now, as our viewers just learned, medical cannabis dispensaries will be coming to Vermilion, but will this impact campus marijuana regulations at all?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So ultimately, it's kind of yes and kind of no. And so one of the things we really have to look at is just that federally, marijuana in all forms is still illegal. So based on Board of Regents policy for the student code of conduct and even the drug-free schools aspects that we have to follow, it won't change what we do on campus, but it might affect those students that are off campus.
So as of right now, campus policy regarding medical marijuana will be the same and campus will remain drug-free?
That is correct. So there's been some changes to the verbiage in some of our Board of Regents policies that would govern the day-to-day. And those changes have been, really ultimately ensuring that we're complying with federal law. And so that's tied to a lot of federal grant money and scholarships and things like that we receive, Title IV funding. So because a lot of those things, we have to maintain compliance with the federal law. And so because of that, we won't see a lot of major changes on campus.
Thank you so much for being here. Live in the muck for Coyote News, I'm Kate Cromer.
Thanks, Kate. Vermilion City Council members expect to have the measures in place within the year.
The House Select Committee on Impeachment is not recommending the impeachment of Attorney General Jason Ravnsborg. This recommendation goes to the full House of Representatives, which will reconvene on April 12th for a special session. The recommendation serves as the next step in the process before the full House weighs in on whether or not to impeach Ravnsborg. Democratic Representatives Jamie Smith and Ryan Swatch were the only ones on the committee who voted against the do not impeach recommendation. The committee's also just released the redacted investigation file to the public. The file contains documents, photos, and videos from the investigation. The release of this file has been a point of contention between the committee and the governor throughout the course of the investigation. The file is available on the Legislative Research Council's website. Governor Kristi Noem is coming out on top for veto day, with all 3 of her vetoes being sustained by the legislature. Noem vetoed House Bills 1281 and 1223, as well as Senate Bill 151. HB 1281 said federal funds that come to the state for new uses would require a special committee of lawmakers to sign off on the executive branch's plan. Noem opposed the bill on the grounds of it being too broad and increasing government bureaucracy. HB 1223 allowed pregnant minors to make medical decisions after a reasonable effort has been made to get consent from the parent or guardian. The bill explicitly didn't allow a pregnant minor to get an abortion without parental consent. Noem says the bill is unnecessary because of current statute and because it takes away parental rights. SB 151 automatically removed certain convictions related to marijuana from a background check record after 5 years. Noem says it allows people to be dishonest about their history and sets a bad precedent for criminal justice. These bills join Senate Bill 76, which the governor vetoed earlier in the session. That bill revised provisions related to the taxable money a person could get from the South Dakota lottery.
Coming up, USD hosts its first Asian night, plus how Coyote fans celebrated the Sweet 16 in Wichita. Stay with us.
The Student Government Association is a great way for students to actually impact on what happens to campus or make a meaningful change through legislation and SGA.
This is Coyote News.
The Asian American Student Association held their first ever Asian Night on Sunday. The night kicked off with a speech from Dean of Students Kim Grieve and a fashion show that featured most Asian countries' traditional wardrobe. The event included an Indian dance and musical performances, with one being a traditional Nepali song, finished off by welcoming next year's executive staff, as well as thanking and saying farewell to the senior members. Asian American Student Association member Teresa Tran says that the organization helps enlighten students.
Asian American Student Association, otherwise known as ASA, is just basically a bunch of just Asian American students, and we're all just grouped together to provide events and just share our culture with the students at USC. So I think it's really fun, and I just think it's a great way to make people more aware of our culture and traditions.
The Asian American Student Association is now planning events for next semester.
The Wellness Center held their first climbing competition this past weekend. Climb USD hosted the Coyote Classic climbing competition last Saturday at the rock wall. It appears we have a problem with our video right now, but nearly half the attendees were NDSU students visiting Vermilion to take part in the fun. I spoke with Jeff McCono, who is a climber here at USD. He says the number of participants was much more than expected.
We were expecting, we were going to be happy if we got 20 people to show up, and we had 41 pre-register, and I think we're at about 46 people right now. So it is a really, really good turnout.
McCono says there's a broad appeal for rock climbing.
You're really just there to have a good time, meet with people and talk with people, and you climb as well, but it's more of a social thing than anything else. So it's a full body workout, but it's also a really big social thing.
Students wanting to put on their climbing shoes can visit the Wellness Center during their regular hours.
Wichita, Kansas saw an influx of Coyote fans this past weekend as the USD women's basketball team made their Sweet 16 debut. Prior to tip-off, many Coyote fans made their way to pregame parties in places close to the arena, such as the Norton Brewing Company and the Green Mill restaurant. Vermilion local Deb Christensen made the trip to Wichita with her husband, who's an USD alum. Christensen says the success of the women's basketball team is a great way to unite fans everywhere.
Coyote sports, whether it's basketball, volleyball, football, I don't want to forget, soccer and softball and all of that either, but it's just such a great way for the community and USD campus to come together, and it's just such great entertainment for us, I know, going to sports events and to be down here to cheer them on. We've been watching them play all season, every season, in the past, and it just, what a great way to end the season. This is just awesome.
For the historical Coyote Sweet 16 berth, over 8,500 fans were in attendance, forcing the Intrust Bank Arena to open the upper bowl to ticket sales. While local Wichita restaurants helped host Coyote fans who had made the trip, locations all around the Midwest were cheering on the Yotes at pregame parties as well throughout Vermilion, Sioux Falls, Rapid City, and Omaha. Next on Coyote Sports, the softball team wins their opening series for the Summit. It's all happening next on Coyote Sports.
In the United States, approximately 6.3 million animals enter shelters every year. Of those, only 3.2 million will be adopted, and over 920,000 will be euthanized. Help put a stop to animal homelessness, save a life, and rescue your next best friend.
This is Coyote News.
This is Coyote Sports. I'm Michael Stake.
And I'm Hannah Gokenauer. The women's basketball team's run in the NCAA tournament came to an end after they lost to Michigan in the Sweet 16. The Coyotes led by 2 after 10 minutes and held a 2-point lead into halftime, but the Wolverines took the lead in the third quarter as they entered the fourth and final quarter up by 1. Hannah Shervin fouled out in the closing minutes of the game when the Coyotes trailed by 5. The Coyotes were down by 3 in the closing seconds when Kaya Watson shot a 3-pointer as time expired to tie the game. But it was no good, sending Michigan to the Elite 8. This game marks the end of 4 seniors' careers at USD as Liv Korngable, Regan Sankey, Chloe Lamb, and Hannah Shervin have officially played their last game as a Coyote. These 4 have contributed to 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances, as well as this year's Sweet 16 run. Lamb and Shervin both declared for the WNBA draft yesterday.
Coyote News' Landon DeBoer is live in the muck to hear what's next for Coyote athletics as the women's basketball season comes to a close. Landon?
Thanks, Michael. I'm here with Athletic Director David Herbster to talk about the women's basketball team's run to the Sweet 16. Still fresh in many Coyote fans' minds, how does this rank in terms of USD athletic history, and can we even give it a ranking at this point?
I guess I'll let others give it the ranking on what where it ends up in the history of everything. But I would tell you, as far as where we've been, at least in the Division I era, it probably ranks as one of the top all-time moments in Division I for us right now. To get to, you realize there's 358 teams that make the NCAA tournament, and to be one of the final 16 teams standing is pretty impressive, and really almost a shot to make the Elite 8 as well. So as far as what it means to the program or the university, I've really seen probably the amount of social media interest, media coverage of this, as well as the fan support that we had seen at the game itself is without a doubt one of the top moments for not only for USD athletics, but for the university.
And you talked a little bit about that media attention. How important is that for both the university and the athletic teams as well in recruiting and such?
I think that's the one valuable thing about the NCAA tournament, whether it's the women's side or the men's side, these Cinderella teams that kind of come up and make it this far in the tournament into the Sweet 16 or even further than that, it's always kind of that David versus Goliath. So everybody kind of likes the underdog story, and the media will certainly pick up on the underdog story, realizing that, we're playing Ole Miss and we're playing Baylor and you're playing Michigan, and these teams that probably have 5 times the budget that we do, that a little school in South Dakota can come along and start knocking these teams off. It really tells you, and that's what's so good about the tournament, is anything is possible. But it certainly has put South Dakota in the forefront of a lot of people's minds.
And finally, how important was it that Coyote fans were able to make the drive down to Wichita and fill the stands with red?
I don't think you can really put that into words. I call that one of those goosebump moments, right? Because once you walked in there, certainly seeing everybody downtown, seeing how just everybody kind of descended upon Wichita, and we made it a point too to make Wichita little Vermilion, right? I say little Vermilion, but what a crowd does for a team in a game is immeasurable as far as helping to create momentum, to create enthusiasm and energy. But just, I think, seeing everybody around that descended on Wichita, people that I hadn't seen in a long time, people I know were not at a basketball game this year, but it was not only the support for the women's basketball program, but it was the support and the pride in the university that I think brought everybody together. And coming off of what we've had to deal with for the last couple years with COVID, I think it was great, almost like a celebration to finally be able to gather together like that and make a venue 400 miles away from Vermilion a home court advantage.
Well, thank you once again for being on Coyote News. Live in the muck for Coyote News, I'm Landon DeBoer.
Thanks, Landon. The softball team won their first opening series in the Summit League, where they won 2 of their 3 games over the weekend versus North Dakota State. In Game 1 on Saturday, the Coyotes trailed by 2 heading into the 7th inning, where they loaded up the bases for Courtney Wilson, who tied the game with a 2-run single. The Bison walked Alicia Saenz to load the bases once again. Jaden DeWitt's hit was not fielded cleanly, allowing the run to score in walk-off fashion as the Coyotes won 5-4. Game 2, the Bison got off to a 6-0 lead after the 3rd inning and held USD to 1 as the final score was 7-1 Bison. Game 3 of the weekend saw freshman pitcher Clara Edwards in the circle, where she threw 99 pitches, allowing 0 earned runs and 6 hits and 2 walks, and striking out 2 batters in the game. Edwards' performance held the Coyotes to an 8-1 victory over the Bison. The Coyotes followed it up by splitting a double-header versus Drake yesterday. They'll be back at home this weekend hosting in-state rival SDSU this Saturday and Sunday at Nygaard Field. The Coyotes track and field team split up and competed in 3 different conferences over the weekend. The Clyde Littlefield Texas Relay, the Bobcat Invitational, and the Wildcat Classic. The Clyde's Littlefield Texas Relays were held in Austin, Texas, and saw pole vaulter Eric Hammer finish 7th in the elite pole vault competition. And Coyote alum Emily Grove finished 2nd in the women's division of elite pole vault competition. At the Bobcat Invitational in San Marcos, Texas, the Coyotes broke a program record in the women's 4x100 meter relay. The quartet of Erin Kinney, JC Pulse, Anna Robinson, and Sarah Reithenrath bested a 4-year-old record by 0.2 of a second. The Coyotes captured 5 event titles at the Wildcat Classic in Wayne, Nebraska. Charlie Babcock set a meet record in the 5,000-meter run, winning the event. The track team will be back at home this weekend, hosting the USD Early Bird this Saturday.
The women's golf team have finished 2nd in back-to-back invites. They finished runner-up at the Houston Baptist Women's Invite 2 weeks ago and now at the Diane Daughtery Invite yesterday in St. Charles, Missouri. 3 Coyote golfers finished in the top 5 with Lark Jensen leading the way, finishing 2nd overall on the weekend and helping the team have the best round 3 finish in the tournament. The team will compete next at the Stampede at the Creek in Omaha on April 11th. Their last meet before the Summit League Championships. The volleyball team started their spring schedule Tuesday, losing against Creighton 3-1. This fall, the Coyotes went 20-10, winning the Summit League tournament against the regular season champions, the Omaha Mavericks, in 3 sets. USD went to the NCAA tournament where they lost in 3 sets to the region's host, the Minnesota Golfers. After the season, South Dakota gave coach Leanne Williamson a 5-year extension that will run through fall of 2026. USD saw 5 players graduate at the end of the season, but Librero Lolo Weideman officially took her COVID year to come back for a final season. The Coyotes signed a transfer from Wayne State College, Elena Wolf, a defensive specialist who recorded 268 digs and 26 aces last year for the Wildcats and had 3 seasons of eligibility remaining. The Coyotes will play on 3 more dates this spring, with them playing their only spring home game on April 13th, while they will host Augustana. That's it for Coyote Sports.
Make sure you're following Coyote Radio's Twitter at Coyote Radio 911 for live updates of game coverage this spring.
Coming up, we hear some of students' best pranks. Stay tuned.
My favorite thing about the International Club is the different events they hold within the school year. My particular favorite is definitely Festival of Nations.
Hey, Charlie. Peace out. Except for you. Wait,
This is Coyote News.
The end of March is upon us, which means April Fool's Day is just around the corner.
It's no joke, Sydney. In this week's Out and About, we asked students what some of their best pranks were.
Here's what they had to say.
One time in high school, we switched one of the teachers' rooms with the other teachers' rooms. So like all of their things down to like their little pencil cups were switched.
I forked our high school football field.
In high school, my professor had a pet brick, and so I took it and I pretended to break it in front of him.
Phone calling people and like seeing it's somebody else.
I've never actually pulled a prank. I've had many pranks pulled on me.
In high school, I covered one of the teacher's classrooms with an old picture of himself I found on Google.
One of the worst pranks ever done on me was someone pantsed me in front of my high school lunch room.
Saran wrapping a guy's truck. That was pretty fun.
I definitely pied my brother in the face one time after he woke up.
It's gonna sound mean, but it was a little of a catfish to one of my friends.
It's not one that I pulled, but my brother's girlfriend. She ended up putting an entire tube of toothpaste between 2 Oreo cookies, and he ate the whole thing, got sick, and now they're married.
Well, Sydney, I don't know if this is my best prank or my worst, but around 4 years ago on April Fool's, I successfully convinced my parents that I was having a kid, and didn't really go too well, so I don't think I would recommend pulling that one.
No, I don't think I've ever pulled that one, but my favorite one to do is take the regular jelly beans and switch them out with the ones that don't taste the best.
Oh, so you're talking like the Harry Potter vomit jelly beans.
Yeah.
Well, Sydney, got any grapes? Because 13 years ago, after the original viral YouTube video, The Duck Song, the creator has released a new live-action version based in real life. Calling it The Duck Song IRL, creator Bryant Oden posted the video a week ago on YouTube and TikTok, reaching 4.3 million views. That is it for tonight's Coyote News.
Be sure to pick up this week's edition of The Volant to read about the Chamber Choir's spring break tour.
Listen throughout the week on 91.1 KAOR for news and entertainment.
This is Coyote News. Have a great night.